I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
Capella University is rethinking higher education. With its game-changing FlexPath learning format, you can earn your degree on your schedule and fit your education seamlessly into your life. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show on the Choose Yourself Network. Today on the James Altucher Show.
What do you think has been one of the biggest mistakes or lessons that you've acquired going through this process of kind of investing?
Biggest mistake is thinking I am smart at something. So you're only really smart at what you've done yourself personally. And then you're a little bit smart from the books you've read and so on. But, really keeping in mind that you're always very stupid in every other area of life. And there are people who are experts and they're going to destroy you in investing. Mm-hmm. They're going to just eat you alive. So that's why investing in yourself, to have access, to be able to travel around, to have time to talk to people so that you could find the smart people, see what they're doing, and then piggyback what they're doing. That's always the best investment. So when I actually make a cash investment in something, it's usually because I'm following someone who's 100 times smarter than me in that area.
I think that's great. I think that's also a great philosophical just way to approach life. Hearing that said recently as well, like, you are special at maybe one thing, but you're not special at everything else. So it's okay to double down on the thing that you're good at, but then realize the other 99.9% of things you're not. So don't act like you're the exception to the rule. I feel a little bit more.
And even New York City a little more, or LA?
New York City, I mean, I was in Texas actually, and I was talking to somebody who's like an investment guy for a lot of these tech dudes, and I was kind of like, my mom's like, "Oh, you made some money. You should like put some money in a pre-construction condo that'll open in a couple of years. It's a good investment." And then when I speak to him, he's like, "You don't have any money, bro. You should be investing in Humble the Poet and only in Humble the Poet." And
yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah, he's like, "You're not, because net worths are things are a lot bigger here in scale, and everyone's here about speeding it up." And recently I had a talk with another entrepreneur. He's like, you have to figure out your 10-year goal, and then you got to figure out how to make it happen in 2 years. So I get it. And so,
well, you know what, we should do like a mini podcast just on this, because I think this is outside the scope of this book.
Yeah.
But I think this is valuable. Are we recording?
I've been recording.
Okay, you made a little bit of money. What happened next?
So I thought, let's, biggest fear is going broke again, because I don't want to go broke again. And, started talking to people. And again, in my family, within their scope, my parents have invested in real estate. They just, we live beside a college. They bought some houses, rented out to students, slow, boring money, but it works. And, my mother was recommending, she's like, don't lose your money. So, kind of putting a little bit of fear into me, invest in pre-construction condos. And then I was in Austin, Texas, and I was talking to a buddy who has a financial consulting firm, and he works exclusively with like VCs and folks in tech. And then when explaining to him my situation, he's like, "You don't have any money to invest because the only thing you should be investing in is in yourself." And Humble the Poet.
You know, he's so correct because, you know, people always say to me, "Oh, I have $2,000, $10,000, $50,000. What should I be investing in?" And if you think about it, let's just take the $2,000 example. If you take an online photography course and then you're able to book, you know, for $2,000, and then you're able to book one wedding,
Yeah.
you know, at a courthouse, like an elopement where you're going to do the photographs and you're going to charge $1,000, which is cheaper than any other photographer. You just made a 50% return
Yeah.
on your investment, probably within a few months.
Yeah.
So, you know, for each, you know, you can't, it's hard to invest $50 million into your own self, but like certainly, you know, up to a certain order of magnitude, let's say up to 100,000, 200,000, it's really important to just invest in yourself. On your mom's suggestion, by the way, I'm intrigued that she said pre-construction condo because you get that bump in value once the construction is finished.
Yeah.
So that's a smart way to look at real estate. But again, the returns are much better if you just invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Again, up to a certain amount. But people always think that stocks are going to be get rich quick. They are, even Warren Buffett made money on the fees he charges people rather than he didn't get rich on just the returns on stocks. It was also on the fees on all the billions of dollars people invested with him. And it's the same thing for venture capitalists. You know, unless you're in like the one investment of a decade out of millions. Like if you're in an Uber, you can get rich with just a few $1,000s. But you know, 6 people did that. And, you know, I think that's an important rule of investing for who you are and for each scale, size of investment. Always you have to ask, is the best investment in myself as opposed to other things or other people or other ideas? So that guy had good advice for you.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's also just about the education. Like I was speaking to a friend who he had a web design company that was eventually purchased by Shopify, and now he's a higher up there. And I said, if you could do anything different, what would you do? And he goes, I'd use other people's money to have grown my business. And I was just thinking about that idea, and I said, if somebody, you know, let's say if you came up to me and said, listen, I love Humble the Poet, here's $1 million. I'm still in the phase where I was like, what would I do with the $1 million?
Well, you know, I had a web design business myself, and people were always trying to invest, and I said, no, we never raised a dime.
Yeah.
And I liked the fact that I didn't raise a dime because then I was able to keep total control. I didn't have to, you know, when you're running your own company, you think you're the boss, but actually you're the lowest person on the totem pole. Your employees have actually more power than you. Your customers have more power than you. Your partners have more power than you. And your investors have more power than you.
Yeah.
So the more of that you take on, the lower down you are and the less decision-making power you have. But one mistake I made, and maybe your friend with the web design business might have made the same mistake. If you're providing a service in a business, it's always of less value than if you make a product. So if I had made, or if your friend had made a product that makes web design easier, he would have sold because software is more scalable. He would have sold for a higher amount to Shopify. I would have sold a higher. I was profitable because I was just providing a service. I didn't have a product that I had to invest in to build.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason to take in money is if you're going to build something that scales. But that requires a whole skill set. You have to know how to build something.
Yeah.
Which you know how to build the things that you've been building, but building a product is a whole different skill set that people don't realize requires that skill.
Yeah, completely. And I think that, and he also went as far as to say, even when he started his company, he's like, we were just a couple young guys, and because our policy was keep 3 months of costs in the bank and everything else invested back into the company. And I'm like, well, how did you invest it back? He goes, through new hires. And that became a constant theme I've been hearing with people is new hires. And he's like, if you got an extra $100,000 lying around, hire somebody worth $100,000. And I was just like, hire them for what? And then that required me to kind of really dissect what I've been doing, what's been working, what I would like to do, and how I could find somebody outside of my assistants who are college kids, to help me take things to the next level. So I'm fortunate. my sister's an MBA and she's a consultant for some of the banks and airlines and stuff like that. So she just sat me down recently and kind of gave me the once over. I think it's called a strategy session or what have you. So I learned the concept of critical pathways.
What's the concept of critical pathways?
So you might have 7 different things that might be taking you to your goal, whether your goal is making a certain amount of money, having a certain lifestyle, what have you. And she's like, well, what is the most critical one that if this fell off or this became damaged, everything else would start to suffer from that. So for me, just kind of being like, okay, well, I earn from, I write books, I make music, I design clothes, I do speaking, I'm an influencer. I have all these different things. And she's like, well, what are the things that if they went away tomorrow, things would be a lot more difficult? And I was like, okay, well, right now those book advance checks are pretty big and they put me in a position which gave me leverage in my music deals because I could have made the music myself and didn't need anybody's money. But also, as my social media grows, that always serves as leverage in any deal because I'm coming in with a built-in marketing apparatus. So I was like, okay, she's like, well, let's focus on those. Let's give those your 80% and all these other things. Let's start with those with your 20% until you can start finding talented people that kind of run these elements of your ship.
Right. So she kind of said basically a similar thing, which is that with this extra money, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
You have the leverage. You're able to invest in yourself by having more leverage in the music deals and more time to focus on creating things that are quality enough to put on your social media, and it becomes this virtuous cycle. Whereas if you invested in a condo or put everything into some tech deal that will give you sleepless nights because it's going to take 9 years, the typical investment, if it's a good investment, could take 7 to 10 years before you ever see that money again, even if it works. That's if it works. So, that was good advice. I think enough young people, or just enough people starting out and first getting money don't realize these critical things. Money is like an energy, and the first thing you need to energize is yourself to make more money.
Yeah, completely.
Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main, that's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions
and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players, and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy.
And I think it also made me realize, like, just even going from generation to generation, and just even on the train over here, talking to a friend about, our parents came from a different country and they had a finite amount of tools or access to tools. And, as when we were younger, we might have held that against them, saying, my parents guilted me too much, or my parents pressured me to do things and become a doctor, lawyer, and engineer. But that's what was in their scope. And being born and raised in North America, having much more access to tools. We may not just come out the box knowing all these new things. So in my family, I'm one of the first entrepreneurs, let alone an artist. I'm just one of the first entrepreneurs. So, even my mother's advice of real estate is safe and secure, is based on that's as much as she knows. She doesn't know any, but she's a homemaker herself. She doesn't, and that's what she realizes. And credit to them. My father paid off a mortgage on a house as a cab driver, and he paid it off in like 10, 15 years. And
again, as an entrepreneur, what it seems like you understand instinctively is that there's kind of the hub at the core, at the center, which is your writing skills, your music skills, your social media skills, and so on. But then there's all the spokes, and in order for the bicycle to ride, all those spokes have to be functional.
Yes.
And if you kind of take away some spokes to put it all, I'm going to do something completely different, like participate in a real estate deal, the bike might not ride.
Completely.
You won't get where you want to go.
Completely. And I think it's also been I'm starting to realize how much it does align with my values. I think in my previous life, I was an elementary school teacher. And the reason I wanted to be a teacher was I wanted to work in a position where I could do it for 30 years and never say 2 days were the same, or I've seen it all. I wanted to be in a situation of lifelong learning. And to hear, when my sister was giving me the strategy session, she kept referring to it as iterative learning. She goes, listen, you're never going to have it all figured out. The more you accomplish, the more challenges you're going to face. And with that, you're going to have to learn new skill sets and mindsets. And I realized that where it's still that combination of unlearning old things. So for me, unlearning the idea that artists aren't allowed to make money without being called a sellout. And being like, no, Andy Warhol said business is one of the most interesting types of art. And taking it from that perspective, being like, no, it's important to earn. It's important to create resources to maximize impact and even selfishly live the life I want to live, which is, having new experiences, being around new people, getting exposure to thought leaders. And that requires a level of access, a level of income, having time to be here in the middle of the day with you. That in itself requires a resource. So it's gotten me really excited. And I mean, I think the little level of anxiety that comes with like, well, who would be my next hire? Because currently I've only employed students that are setting my schedule and doing my calendar and making sure my social media doesn't fall apart. And now it's like, well, maybe we're gonna have to get somebody or headhunt somebody from a company or some sort like that. So it's an exciting and daunting challenge, but I guess that's how it's supposed to be.
But I would be careful about that too. Like,
Yeah.
take a very long time to hire.
Okay.
Make sure you're absolutely just bursting so that if you don't have that just right person, you're going to explode. Because the worst thing is, there's an example from chess. I hate to say it. So Bobby Fischer was the world chess champion in 1972, the only American world chess champion ever. And whenever two chess champions play with each other, they bring a team of what they call seconds. Like in fencing, you have a second,
Yeah.
and someone to kind of help you out, analyze adjourned games when you sleep, and so on. And Bobby Fischer never had a second with him. He was the only player at that level to never have a number two. And people would ask him, "Why don't you have a second?" And he said, "Because I hate giving chess lessons in the middle of the world championship." So you really need to make sure this is the right. That's a big move. You really need to make sure that you can't take care of everything yourself. Like, yes, it sounds like you're taking care of the things that you really need to delegate
Yeah.
and don't want to do yourself. But each one after this is very a critical life decision because
Yeah.
there's a saying, a faster way to say this is hire slow, fire fast.
That's exactly what I was thinking in my head. Hire slow, fire fast. That's the one I've been learning. And again, even that, shedding my Canadian sensibilities so I can fire fast. And not
Yeah.
just kind of, because the teacher in me always is like, when you're working with a student and they don't get it, you immediately think, well, what didn't I do correctly? And I've seen that even with my employees. If they make a mistake, oftentimes I'll be like, well, did I communicate it to them clearly? Did I spend enough time training them? I'm always on the road. So most of the time that we're having work sessions, it's via Skype or, Google Hangouts, and really trying to realize, but always remembering, and I heard this from Derek Sivers' audiobook. It was, to create your business is like creating your own utopia. Like you get to kind of set the tone of this is your little piece of world and how you want it to be.
That's a really good point. And actually, that's related to one of the things I want to talk about in your new book. So we'll end this session of Humble the Poet and investing. Probably not a thing you would realize would be the topic of an entire mini podcast. I'll just ask you a question, though, if you have any questions for me on investing. Not that I have great answers, but, you're new to this and I'm bad at it, so maybe I could help you.
Yeah, no, I think especially, I think just recently learned, and again, coming from a blue collar family, and being told, there's working for your money, and then there's, working for other people, working for yourself, and now I'm learning that investing is another way to kind of generate wealth, and learning how the United States kind of really provides a lot of privilege to folks in that arena. But the level of access to education doesn't seem to be there in any formal sense. What do you think has been, I guess, vaguely, what has been one of the biggest mistakes or lessons that you've acquired going through this process of kind of investing?
Biggest mistake is thinking I am smart at something. So you're only really smart at what you've done yourself personally. And then you're a little bit smart from the books you've read and the experiences you've had and so on. But, really keeping in mind that you're always very stupid in every other area of life. And there are people who are experts and they're going to destroy you in investing. They're going to just eat you alive. So that's why investing in yourself, you mentioned it, investing in yourself to have access, to be able to travel around, to have time to talk to people so that you could find the smart people, see what they're doing, and then piggyback what they're doing. That's always the best investment. So when I actually make a cash investment in something, it's usually because I'm following someone who's 100 times smarter than me in that area. Or if I see someone like me and I look at how they grew, I could see, okay, they didn't grow, they didn't suddenly write a book and then make all their money by investing in Google. They invested in themselves and they wrote another book, or they gave talks, or they started a podcast, or they spent more time on their YouTube channel. They built that hub and spokes and wheel approach around themselves. Because again, for a long time, the best investment is going to be in yourself so that you could build that network so that your other investments, the ones you don't enjoy, you could follow someone who's smart. Like, you're not a real estate expert.
Yeah.
So you would your only strategy there is if you had surplus money that you weren't going to use to invest in yourself. And by the way, that would be a big number. If you had surplus money, then you find someone who is the expert, maybe your mom, and you say, Mom, here's some money, just put it in your next pre-construction condo.
Yeah.
And every day I have to wake up and tell myself I am stupid at every area of life, even most areas include that do involve me. And so it keeps me humble, as in your name, and it prevents me from making more bad investment decisions than I have in the past.
I think that's great. I think that's also a great philosophical just way to approach life. I think it's hearing that said recently as well. Like, you are special at maybe one thing, but you're not special at everything else. So it's okay to double down on the thing that you're good at, but then realize the other 99.9% of things you're not. So don't act like you're the exception to the rule.
Right, and I think there's the tendency when you succeed at one thing, you get some people saying, "Oh my gosh, Humble, your book was so great. You're a genius." Those are the most dangerous words somebody can say to you, because if I'm a genius, then I can do other things that I've never done before because I'm such a genius. And these people said so, and that's how you lose all your money.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh, you like me because I'm a great writer? Well, you should also drive a Kia."
Yeah.
#ad. Like, yeah.
So, all right, well, Humble the Poet on investing. And now we're going to switch to a podcast about his brand new book, which is called Things No One Else Can Teach Us.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power, so how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/advance. That's oracle.com/advance. oracle.com/advance.